the Sweet Life Travel Podcast is so excited to be sharing space with giants within the travel industry. And as our Honorable Minister Ed Bartlett started off by saying, we're storytellers. And it was interesting and it really clicked to me because as I have been doing these podcasts and doing our Sheri fun and really just keeping my world abreast with all that's happening in the world of travel, I discovered that I am a storyteller. I was told not too long ago that I'm also an influencer. And it is true, because the better the story I tell, the better the picture that we paint, the greater the possibility that persons will take our word for it and go travel, go see the world. And so I'm very happy to have been among the fortunate few to be sitting on this plot of ground celebrating Sandals Resort's 18th annual Travel Advisor Golf Tournament. This is by no means a simple feat, and I do not take it for granted. As I listened to Gary Sadler's presentation, my memory rolled back to that day in April of 2010 when we met for the very first time. And this was me becoming very Google-eyed as a former employee of Sandals Resorts International, working at the then brand new Beaches Ocherius in Kids Camp as a supervisor, to now having my eyes set on becoming an international travel advisor specializing in my homeland of Jamaica. And as Gary spoke, he spoke into my heart, he spoke into my dreams, he spoke into my vision. And I remember that once again, I credited the idea of branching out on my own and becoming a travel advisor to the Honorable Gordon Booth Stewart, a man who walked into the kids' camp, and as I observed his demeanor, I had a conversation with myself and I realized that he was no different from me. We're both Jamaicans. We were both living on the rock. We both had audacious dreams that to the average eye made no sense. And the only difference at that point between he and I was that he dared to try to execute them. And so, even though this might be a very lengthy intro, I will pause and say it was with absolute pleasure that 12 years later, I was able to introduce my son to the iconic Gary Sadler. Because you see, it's important to know when you've touched a life and when that life has gone on to touch another generation and to plant the seed for the future. And so as we are moving into the twilight of our service to this Jamaican travel landscape, we know that the future is secure. Of course, I could ramble along, but there's so much that Gary and the Honorable Minister has to say. They both have lots that they shared with us, and I don't want you to miss a minute. So without any further prolonging, let's dive right in to what was a phenomenal night. The grand opening ceremony, the welcome party on the popcorn lawn right here at Sandals, Ochi Beach. Go on, take a listen.
If you want to show the effectiveness of this golf tournament, of the fact that after 3 years you have returned and only Sandals Resort is capable of bringing 150 travel advisors from across the United States down to the Caribbean to enjoy golf, but to experience Jamaica, to experience the Caribbean, then all you have to do is to sell more Sandals and Beaches resorts. So we want your business. At this time, I have a very easy task. I made a call to his assistant and I said, we're having the golf tournament, the USA golf tournament, and we're bringing in 150 travel advisors to Jamaica. And she said to me, you might want to call the minister on that, because his travel schedule has become absolutely crazy as he continues to champion the cause for Jamaica's tourism recovery. Jamaica's tourism recovery is a global effort that requires not just business from the traditional markets, but how do you build tourism in a country using the value of the traditional markets, but yet still travel and explore the world and bring visitors from across the world. So regrettably, he's always traveling. He's now traveling more than even me, but he's all over the world. And I said, Honorable Minister, the travel agents, the travel advisors will be in Jamaica. After 3 years, he said to me, what date, what time, and I'll be here. He recently received, before I talk to you about some of the awards that he received, make sure before he leaves here tonight, not only do you get a photograph with him, but you have to send it to your customers to tell them that you're hanging out in Jamaica with the Honorable Edmund Bartlett, and he's going to make sure that commissions for the travel advisor is protected every step of the way, so life is good, and you need to come to Jamaica. So you make sure that he doesn't leave here. Ladies and gentlemen, he recently received the Global Tourism Hall of Fame Award. And why it is important is that he's the first Caribbean national to receive such an award. He has also been selected to the top 50 global travel tourism leaders. Now, that to me is really a clear indication, not just for his commitment to Jamaica, to the travel industry, but from a global level, he continues to be respected. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my pleasure to introduce the Honorable Edmund Bartlett, Minister of Tourism.
It's a good thing you don't work for me. But since he works with me, I can't help accepting that some of the things he said could just be genuine because he works with me. So thank you, Clary, for those very kind words. Mr. Connor Lawler, our Chief Financial Officer of Sandals Resorts International. I know he wasn't quite with us this evening, but I shout him out anyway because he's an important player in this great global institution that we have created in the Caribbean called Sandals International. Mr. Christopher Wright, our Business Development Manager of the Jamaica Tourist Board. Chris, now he works for me. I'm loving it, I like that. Mr. Risa Norton, Editor-in-Chief of Agent at Home Magazine. Mr. Charles Blacker, General Manager, Sandals Ocherias Beach Resort. Other distinguished members of the Sandals family, and most important of everyone in the audience this evening, our valued travel advisors. Our members of the media have always been with us, a critical part of our landscape, the crucible through which our ideas and values and stories are transmitted and told. And you know that's what we do. We tell stories, great stories all over the world. And we invite people to share with us in those stories and to consume the impact and value of it at great cost. You know, just before the pandemic in 2019, 1.4 billion people traveled across the world to hear and consume our stories and paid $7.9 trillion to do it. And here in Jamaica, of course, then 4.3 million came and they paid 3.7 billion. Then, of course, came the pandemic. And I heard it spoken of as a little thing that happened, and perhaps that's what it may very well be recorded as, because of how we have managed to navigate its uncertainties and have been able within 2 years, and indeed that's a record for human existence. Indeed, since what we call Anthropocene Earth, we have never recovered from any global disruption as quickly as this one. So it may very well go down in history in time as a little thing, who knows. But it wasn't a little thing. It was a huge thing. It was perhaps the most, what I call, existential threat that the human family has experienced since man on earth, or Anthropocene Earth, as we say. And because it's the first and only global event that embraced the entire world simultaneously. And we recall global events that have taken place. There was a great volcano in Iceland that covered, the plumes of which covered Asia and Europe. For 2.5 years, the world experienced sub-0 degree temperatures, winters getting as low as minus 60 degrees and summer minus 2. Vegetation were lost, millions of lives in the wake of it. But the Americas were not touched. So North and South America was enjoying essentially a good life. This one, everybody was affected at the same time. So we had no stories to tell about how we managed or how even to manage. And so by a series of iterations, we, the creatures of this era, who have passed through many epochs and have also passed through many eras and many periods, have come now to what we call the age of knowledge. And the age of knowledge is when information and knowledge is no longer proprietary, is no longer belonging to a certain group in the center, but is now dispersed in the peripheries. Everybody has access to information and knowledge. And we've created gadgetries that enable this. With a single cell phone now, you can speak to Kathmandu tonight and get all kinds of information about everything. Social media is rampant and telling you stories about everybody's feelings, everybody's emotions. So now the transparency brought about by this hyperconnectivity has made the world such a smaller place, but a connected place. And it is that connectivity that enabled us to understand what was happening and how the technology that came about caused us to develop protocols as to how to operate and perhaps what this virus might look like and might respond to. And we were smart enough to respond, and we were innovative enough to pivot and to adapt. And so within 2 years, we were saying things like, yes, we are together apart, but we can come back together again. And what a wonderful feeling tonight that we are together again.
Amen.
And so we welcome you, 155 travel advisors for golfing. When have you played golf? You couldn't do that during what we call the entrepause. You know the entrepause? So we came out of Anthropocene man into entrepause. For 2 years we did nothing. The seas were calm. The fish had a chance to swim nicely. There were no boats sailing and no scuba divers and nobody disrupting the coral reefs. So nature got a chance to flourish a little bit, and the wild enjoyed itself because the animals were able to move around without hunters. And the skies were nice and serene and quiet and unpolluted because we weren't flying. And then within 2 years of everything that's happening, we are now into what we call the anthropulse. Yes, pulse, activity. Man is active again. And so tonight, we have flown all the way from the different parts of the United States that we came to be here to start that process of ensuring that a recovery is happening. And I want to say how very happy we are in Jamaica for the partnership that we've had with you over the period and for the confidence that you continue to repose in us as we sought to use protocols to manage and to navigate this great uncertainty that we call COVID-19. So that we were able to open our borders when everybody else almost was closed on the 20th of June in 2020, 3 months after the pandemic. And we have not closed since. And during the process, we've innovated and we have created expressions, emotions, feelings, and even geographically designed zones or bubbles, as some people call it. But we are a resilient destination. And we express that resilience not only in terms of the fact that we're bouncing back nicely, but that we wanted you to know that we were confident of that resilience, that we could create a resilience corridor in Jamaica where our visitors could come, and they did. And they enjoyed themselves, had a wonderful time, and we had a 0.01% incidence of infection. So much so that the world copied our strategy. And I have been a little bit in demand, you know what I mean? To sort of explain it and to say what that bubble is about and how did you come up, even with the name resilience. And we did that because we are the first country in the world to establish a global tourism resilience and crisis management center at the University of the West Indies here in Jamaica. And the good news to tell you, our advisors, is that we now have 6 countries that have centers that are connected to ours. And I have another 4 countries to establish centers in the next 3 months. So Jamaica would be the headquarters for 10 countries that have a resilience and crisis management center. So what has that meant for us in terms of recovery? And you are here, but you don't have these statistics, so I have to give them to you tonight because I want to boast with you.
That's right.
Because you made it happen. It is you who brought the visitors here.
That is true.
Because when everywhere was struggling, the United States of America remained as a strong and indomitable market for Jamaica. And our recovery, as strong as it is now, is solidly at the feet of the great United States of America. And I say that without contradiction or fear of any kind of feelings of any, because it happened to be true. And not only did we recover strong from the United States, but we recover better because we created new demographics from the United States. And not only it is that the numbers came, but the earnings from tourism also grew. And so I have the good news to tell you that this summer is the best summer that tourism has experienced in the history of Jamaica's tourism. We ended summer with 5,000 more visitors than in 2019, which was a record year. But if that was good news, the better news is that our earnings in this summer is up 20% over 2019. And when we started to project earlier at the beginning of the year, just before Omicron came and spoiled the party in January and February, we were looking at earning somewhere in the region of $3.5 billion this year, and to bring just about 2.3 million stopover visitors. Well, the projections now have gone north. We are up to 2.6 million projection for stopover visitors. Not cruise now, you know. We have to add cruise to that. Stopover. And the projections for earning is a whopping 4.2 billion US dollars. Now, we were projecting that before COVID to happen 5 years down the road. And that 5 years would expire 2025. So you see what recovery has done and how strong that recovery is. So I wanted to celebrate with you tonight. And I'm happy that you're coming not just to enjoy the wonderful delicacies that we provide and the wonderful spirits that Jamaica is well known for. And I think you know them. I think, Dawn, you've had a bit of it, right? No, she said that. But that you would become involved in a great sport. One that has become part of the higher values of the tourism experiences in Jamaica. And we recall that Jamaica was a very exciting golfing destination, and we want to recover back with golf. And so what you're saying to me this evening is that yes, we're starting that process. And Gary told me a while ago that we have back-to-back advisor golf tournaments with the US, with Latin America, South America. My goodness, and I'm going to Saudi Arabia. And I'm going to bring them too. They're paying good money now.
That's right.
But this is a wonderful moment for all of us. And I want to say something to you now which is in keeping with a better understanding that we all need to have about this great industry of ours called tourism. Because you know, we are perhaps the most misunderstood of all industries. Although the fact is that we are the most consumption-driven industry in the world. And because of us, almost every other economic activity on earth has a chance to grow and develop. Think about it. All that is required to satisfy a single tourist from he decides that day to travel until he returns home. Just think about the many economic activities that have to come together. Starting with Adam. Yes, Adam? The star advisor tonight, who did the bookings. And then you move on to the airlines and think about the many economic activities that are involved in making air and aviation happen. And then the airport, just that physical place called the airport. In Jamaica, the largest single employer in any one physical place is the Montego Bay International Airport.
Change the name too.
The largest single employer in a given place is MBJ. And when you look at what is happening there, it's a confluence of so many economic activities, including the very basic of human activities, what is done by our red caps. So we cover a swath of experiences and skill sets and abilities all within that one space, tourism. And then when you leave there to be transferred by these varied motor vehicles to your location, and what is entailed in getting to the location, the fuel, this is required, the battery, tires and accessories and all the things that are required to enable transportation. And then you go to the hotels, and that's another confluence of economic activities and skill sets that have to come together to create that. And you've not had your first meal yet, yes? And that's where it really begins. From the farm to your table. And the numerous economic activities that happen within that strain. So what we're saying to everybody is that tourism is the reason that the economies of the world are now recovering. Because we consume. And once you consume, you provide jobs to prepare whatever the items are for consumption, whether they're cultural or physical or gastronomic. And when you consume, you do it at a price. And that price becomes the income. That becomes the revenue of a government. And the revenue is used to build roads and hospitals and schools and to enable social and economic well-being. But tourism has a cost to make it happen. Because we are a people who like to move to see wonderful things, pleasant things, happy things. Because we're a happy industry. That's what we do. We make people happy. We're the happiness industry of the world. And it means that the look and feel of destinations must be in keeping with that happiness feeling. Because if you don't look good and you don't feel good, I'm not going to come to you, I'm going to go somewhere else. And so, you know, some people quarrel when we make something beautiful somewhere. And some people quarrel even if the cost of doing it might not be in line with how they think, but the cost is a part of the earning and the income. And the more you make Jamaica beautiful, is the more people will come here and love it and spend, and we will be rich. So, I just want you to know that our economy, and thank you, has had 4 or 5 consecutive quarters of growth. And we are envied by everyone because very few economies have experienced that during this pandemic and now. And in every case, every quarter, tourism has led in the growth arrangements. And in the first 4 quarters, we led by triple digits. And only last quarter, we led with 55.4% of the 5.7% increase that the country had. And that didn't happen because we didn't work very hard and we didn't try to make our destination pleasing and desirable. But we did something else which I want to just quickly say because it's of some importance. That we have said to our tourists and our visitors, help us to keep our place beautiful and clean. Give us $20 from your own little savings every time you are on a flight to Jamaica. And we're going to use that to enhance the destination to pretty up the place.
That's right.
So the taxpayers don't have to worry that it is. So if you see a pretty sign, it's taxpayers' money. The tourists put $20 every time they step on the plane to enable us to make Jamaica more beautiful. So we're going to continue with our program in this recovery of beautifying Jamaica. We're going to make iconic, attractive branding across Jamaica. Because we see branding happen. You go to Toronto, strong branding. The name Toronto stands out. When you go to Dunn's River Falls in Jamaica, you must see that too. And when you go to Montego Bay, you must see it. And when you go to Negril, you must see it. And we have to get used to the fact that in seeing beauty, we are going to have to say, oh my God, that's lovely. And even if sometimes it's a little, less satisfying to our eyes in terms of what the cost might be, look at the return. Because today we are looking at 4.2 billion US dollars coming from tourism because we are making the place more beautiful and attractive for the people. And in closing, I know you bore with me for that because you know why, right? In closing, I want to really say how joyous a moment it is for us, all of us, the Sandals family. And the Sandals family is the statement by which all-inclusive is measured globally today. Hello?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
And we are proud to give birth to Sandals. Because in doing so, we are saying to the world, if you really want it, if you want to experience it, if you want to feel it, if you want to know it, you got to come to Jamaica, the home of Sandals.
All right.
And so welcome tonight. Enjoy the evening. Enjoy the repast that is prepared for you. And more so, enjoy the golf tournament.
All right.
And follow the guidance that was given. He's a wise man. God bless you and thank you very much.